Master, we're here to install all the new officers. Brother Austin, can you give us a prayer?
Could you just do it?
I'll do it.
Okay. Would you mind? Lord, please watch over these proceedings. May be successful, and they help influence our officers that are coming. Please bless them, endow them with great wisdom and knowledge to help this law continue to grow and flourish. Please watch over the visitors that have come and made their trip to see and support their families, friends, and neighbors. In your name we pray. Amen.
Y'all join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
I want to thank all the officers for my year. It was, kind of a strange year with COVID and the freeze, and we get a whole lot of our charity work done that we wanted to get done. We could get done. So, but it's been a good year, So I want to now introduce our installing officer, Stephen Orlando.
It was an unusual year, wasn't it? 2020 is something that we won't forget for a long time. At least we can say we survived it, right? And certainly serving as the master of Masonic Lodge, it is a difficulty that you never could have imagined, would never have anticipated. And it had a huge effect on our membership, on our attendance, and the functions that we do as Masons. So just managing something like that, and still have the charter on the wall, the door is still open, is an incredible feat all in itself. And with that in mind, I'd like to give you another round of applause for the Rick for serving so well. Blake, you're going to be next, right?
Yes, sir.
How well did you sleep, Ms. Merrow? Did you sleep okay last night? So,
I slept fine.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. During an installation of officers, you hear words like instruct, propagate knowledge, inculcate, a variety of different words that basically are saying the same thing. It means to teach. Why would words like that be included in an installation ceremony? Why are they so important? To know that, we'd have to know why Masonic lodges exist. Masonic Lodge is the foundation of every Masonic organization in the world. It is the foundation, it is the bedrock of Masonry. What we do here as Masons, as Masonic Lodge, is that we make more Masons. That's what we're in the business of doing, is making Masons. That's what we do. When Dr. Anderson created the charges of Freemasonry in 1725, and ratified by the Grand Lodge of England in 1726, those charges of a Freemason had already been used for centuries before he wrote them down. Centuries before the Grand Lodge of England ratified them. And it is those charges of a Freemason that are used in this installation ceremony that we use today. The same charges are used in Masonic lodges throughout the world. As most of you know, Grand Lodges throughout the world change things from time to time. But they haven't primary focus of the installation. That is to teach. During this installation ceremony, you'll see our Master of Ceremonies charged with the responsibility of working with the senior deacon to ensure that the candidates that come in our doors become Masons, Fullercraft Masons, and Master Masons, learn what they need to learn. They receive Masonic education and information concerning Freemasonry. That's the job of the Marshal and Master of Ceremonies. Even the senior deacons, senior and junior deacons, they are charged with learning the ritual immediately, not when they have time. It is the immediate practice of our ritual. In the installation ceremony, it says rites, but it's not R-I-G-H-T-S. It's R-I-T-E-S, which is another word for ritual. The immediate practice of our ritual. Because you've got to know the ritual of opening and closing if you're going to become a junior warden, or senior warden, or master. Because you're running a 501c organization, nonprofit organization. So the business of a lodge is what's important, not the opening and closing. You're supposed to already know that. That's the basics. That's just what you do. Learning the business of a lodge starts here in the South. And that's what you carry with you and learn, which gets you to the East and serve well. The senior and junior wardens are charged with, the junior warden specifically is charged with taking care of the craft outside the doors of Freemasonry. What kind of conduct do they have? What have they learned inside the lodge that changes their lives when they leave this building? Are they acting as Masons outside this lodge room? Because what we learn as Masons, we believe wholeheartedly is in perfect alignment with the Holy Scriptures. That's why the Bible is on our altar. It is huge. So what we train our guys to do here is what they should carry with them in the community. It helps make them the better man, the better husband, the better son, the better father, the better brother. The senior warden is charged with helping out the worshipful master and to run this lodge when he can't be here. He is charged with the responsibility of helping out those that the master assigns to him, to help them with their instruction, and of course the business of the lodge. The Master of Masonic Lodge is on top of all of that. He runs the whole show. He makes sure that the officers are doing what they're supposed to do. He ensures that the membership is well trained and they understand what masonry means. Yes, we have to do business. We got to pay our bills. We got to have our fundraising projects. You know, our community activities. We got to do all that. Sure, that's what we do as Masons. But the nuts and bolts behind it is what we do as Masons. What makes us Masons that drives everything. That's what we do. There's a small three-word phrase in the ritualistic installation of officers that is italicized. And I covered this last year, but last year was last year, low attendance. I'm going to cover it again briefly this time. It's a very small phrase. In the entire monitor, even in the Grand Master's election of officers, the Grand Lodge election installation of officers, there are no italicized phrases. You only find it in the subordinate lodge, the Blue Lodge. It's a small three-word phrase. And you see it and you hear it, you will hear it in the Master's charge. When it is said that he will lay upon a crown of rejoicing. It's italicized. That gives it special significance. What does a crown of rejoicing mean? It's one of the few places in Masonry today that ties Masonry to Christianity. And I'm not trying to step on any kind of dogma right here, any kind of particular religion or anything. I'm just trying to make a point. The Masonic degrees were commonly referred to as the Christian degrees in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. And after several things happened in the late 1800s, which I don't have time to get into, Freemasonry decided to make it more universal and remove the Christian requirement and keep it more generic. As a matter of fact, in 1908, the last word Christian was removed from our ritual in the master's degree. Since that time, we've been as general as we can, including men within our doors who believe in God, the immortality of the soul, and the brotherhood of man. With that in mind, again, with all the changes these great men have done over the decades, why would they leave that one phrase italicized? Why would they give that phrase significance? To know that, you would have to understand what the phrase means. The phrase comes directly from the New Testament when Paul wrote to the Thessalonians about the 5 crowns that you would receive when you got to heaven, one of which is the crown of rejoicing. And from Paul's perspective, you receive a crown of rejoicing if you bring lost souls and others into the arms of Jesus and into heaven. And if you bring enough of those in, you actually earn a crown of rejoicing. Now, how does that apply to the Master of Masonic Lodge? For the Master of Masonic Lodge, it is his job to bring men of good character and quality into the fold of Masonry. They believe in God, the immortality of the soul, the brotherhood of mankind. They are men of good moral character. They have no criminal record that is crazy, no felonies. They're not drunks. They're not men of licentious behavior or crude behavior. They don't have to necessarily be men that are genteel, but they are good men nonetheless, from all walks of life. That's what the Master does. And if he can bring men like that within these doors and make them Masons, he too shall lay upon that crown of rejoicing in the Masonic fraternity. Please pay attention as this installation ceremony unfolds. It is very old, as I've mentioned before, hundreds of years old. And what it means, the charges that are given to these officers is real, and it means so much to the officers being installed. It's the same type of installation, which includes Dr. Anderson's charges that are in the installation ceremonies throughout the world during this time of year. No installation can be done without its installing marshal. This brother is a past master of Katie, and along with a long list of accomplishments this brother has, he received one last year that is incredible. The Grand Master over the state, the number one man, the number one Mason of the state, assigns men throughout the state to represent him in each district, because he can't be everywhere all the time. These men have received the title of District Deputy Grand Master, and when acting in their official capacity, they are the Grand Master. We have one in attendance here today. Right worshipful Sean, not yet. Sean, you're serving this year as well, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
District Deputy at Large, it's here or in 44?
44.
District Deputy Grand Master of Masonic District number 44. Sean, thank you so much for your service. Give him a round of applause. And if you'll notice, he's wearing an apron, which means he's going back in the line. He's serving in his subordinate lodge. Incredible service. Thank you, Brother Sean. Your installing Marshal is another one of those men, serving as District Deputy Grand Master for Masonic District number 108. Let's give a warm welcome to your installing Marshal, Keith Borst. And the king of the fourth Brother Keith, thank you so much. If you'll come up, I think I have a chair for you over here. The officers to be installed, would you please retire inside the lodge room and line up for installation? I got some, thank you.
You got the program, so you can call a roll?
Yeah.
He's not in there.
You're gonna call it right to get there.
You know they want to write.
Oh, cool.
Great. Hey. Chief for Grace. Oh my God.
I've known Steve for how long? He couldn't remember my last name.
Thank you.
That's
I
it.
know.
Those things happen. It's the light.
It happened.
It's the light.
It happened.
And he was at my golden trial last year too. That was such an honor having you there.
It was right out of my head, Chief. I'm so
Oh, I
sorry.
know. Oh, we've been doing this too long. We don't. That's the little stuff, right?
It is. For you and me.
Yeah. She's there ready. Kind of stop it.
You're funny. Order. It was only a momentary lapse, and I will correct it as quick as I can.
And then you just follow her, come back and
They do this every year, right?
Everybody ready? Everybody ready?
Most of them there, this is not their first rodeo.
That's right. That is correct.
We're ready. So,
If they're gonna mess up a month.
Well, installing Marshal, you will introduce the officers to be installed.
you're gonna mention her.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Each officer will be escorted by Carlton's daughter, Grace.
Worshipful Master, Blake Merrow.
Blake, if you would just shake this young lady's hand there and let her get back to the door. Yes.
All the way at the end.
And she is escorting everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Senior Warden, Cecil E. Brown. Junior Warden and Deputy Escort, Carlton Newberry.
That's a good one.
Well, happy for this. That's right. And Treasurer, C.E. Bud Dumasnell. Take your hand.
Why are they sitting down? Are they supposed to?
I have no idea. Maybe they started already.
Secretary, Charles D. Chuck Olson. We have a sub here. Hold on here. So who's this?
Chaplain.
Chaplain. Who's the chaplain?
Austin.
Austin Brown.
Austin Brown. Oh, I hadn't met you yet. Senior Deacon. Austin. No,
No,
Chaplain.
Chaplain.
Austin Brown. Senior Deacon Juan Mendoza. Junior Deacon Joseph Smith. Tyler Sean M. Wolke.
Master of Ceremony.
Oh,
Master ceremony.
Master ceremony.
Master of Ceremony, Ricky Anheuser. I thought you were just standing in the way. And our Tyler Sean M. Wolke.
Brother Stalling Marshal. Thank you, Miss Grace. Miss Grace, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brother Stalling Marshal, you will present the officers to be installed.
Merciful Master, I present the officers elected and appointed of San Felipe, 239, Lodge 2, number 239, for the installation. I believe each of them to be well qualified to discharge the duties of their office, and each has signified their willingness to accept the same. I therefore ask that they be duly and constitutionally installed in their respective offices.
Brother Stalling Marshal, you will present the worshipful master for installation. The remaining officers may be seated. Worshipful sir and brother, I take pleasure in installing you into this honorable office with the usual ceremonies. But previous to being invested with the insignia of your office, it is necessary that you should signify your assent to those ancient charges and regulations, which point out the duty of a master of a lodge. You will give your assent at the conclusion of these regulations. You agree to be a good man in truth, and strictly to obey the moral law. You agree to be a peaceable citizen, and cheerfully to conform to the laws of the country in which you reside. You promise not to be concerned with plots and conspiracies against government, but patiently to submit to the decisions of the Supreme Legislature. You agree to pay proper respect to the civil magistrate, to work diligently, live creditably, and act honorably by all men. You agree to hold in veneration the original rulers and patrons of the Order of Masonry, and to their regular successors, supreme and subordinate, according to this masons, and to submit to the awards and resolutions of your brethren, when convened, in every case consistent with the constitutions of the order. You agree to avoid private piques and quarrels, and to guard against intemperance and excess. You agree to be cautious in carriage and behavior, courteous to your brethren, and faithful to your lodge. You promise to respect genuine brethren, and to discountenance impostors, and all dissenters from the original plan of Masonry. You agree to promote the general good of society, to cultivate the social virtues, and to propagate the knowledge of the art. You agree to pay homage to the Grand Master for the time being, and to his officers when duly installed, and strictly to conform to every edict of the Grand Lodge or General Assembly of Masons that is not subversive of the principles and groundwork of Masonry. You admit that it is not in the power of any man or body of men to make innovations in the body of Masonry. You promise a regular attendance on the committees and communications of Grand Lodge on receiving proper notice, and to pay attention to all the duties of Masonry on convenient occasions. You admit that that no new lodge shall be formed without permission of the Grand Lodge, and that no countenance be given to any irregular lodge, or to any person clandestinely initiated therein, being contrary to the ancient charges of the order. You admit that no person can be regularly made a Mason in, or admitted a member of, any regular lodge, without previous notice, and do inquiry into his character. You agree that no visitors shall be received into your lodge without due examination, and producing proper vouchers of their having been initiated in a regular lodge. These are the regulations of free and accepted Masons. Do you submit to the charges and promise to support these regulations as masters have done in all ages before you? If so, signify by saying, I do.
I do.
Mr. Blake, in consequence of your cheerful conformity to the charges and regulations of the order, you are now to be installed master of your lodge, in full confidence of your care, skill, and capacity to govern this land. Brother Installing Marshal, you will invest the worshipful master with the insignia of his office, which is the square. The various implements of our profession are emblematical of our conduct in life, and upon this occasion are carefully enumerated. The Holy Writings. That great line in Masonry will guide you to all truth, will direct your path to the temple of happiness, and point out to you the whole duty of man. The square teaches us to regulate our actions by rule and line, and harmonize our conduct by the principles of morality and virtue. The compasses teach us to limit our desires at every station, that rising to eminence by merit, we may live respected and die regretted. The rule directs that we shall punctually observe our duty, press forward in the path of virtue, and neither inclining to the right or way out, and neither inclining to the right nor to the left. In all our actions, have eternity in view. The line teaches us the criterion of moral rectitude, to avoid dissimulation between in conversation and action, and to direct our steps to the path which leads to immortality. The Book of Constitutions you are to search at all times. Cause it to be read in your lives, that none may pretend to ignorance of the excellent precepts it enjoins. You now receive in charge the charter, by the authority of which this lodge is held. You are carefully to preserve and duly transmit it to your successor in office. Lastly, you receive in charge the bylaws of your lodge, which you are to see carefully and punctually execute. Brother Installing Marshal, you will return the worshipful master to his seat and present the senior warden-elect for installation. Brother Installing Marshal, you will invest the senior warden with the insignia of his office, which is the level. That's what this here. Brother Senior Warden, the level demonstrates that we are descended from the same stock, partake of the same nature, and share in the same hope. And though distinctions among men are necessary to preserve subordination, yet no eminence of station should make us forget that we are brethren. For he who is placed on the lowest spoke of fortune's wheel may be entitled to our regard. Because the time will come, the wisest knows not how soon, when all distinction but that of goodness shall cease, and death, the grand leveler of human greatness, reduce us to the same state. Your regular attendance on our stated meetings is essentially necessary. In the absence of the master, you are to govern this lodge. In his presence, you are to assist him in the government of it. I firmly rely on your knowledge of masonry and attachment to the lodge for the faithful discharge of the duties of this important trust. Look well to the west. For the installing marshal, you will return the senior warden to his seat and present the junior warden-elect for installation. For the installing marshal, you will invest the junior warden with the insignia of his office, which is the plum. For the junior warden, the plum advises us to walk uprightly in our several stations, to hold the scales of justice in equal poise, to observe the just medium between intemperance and pleasure, to make our passions and prejudices coincide with the line of our duty. To you is committed the superintendence of the craft during the hours of refreshment. It is therefore indispensably necessary that you should not only be temperate and discreet in the indulgence of your own inclinations, but carefully observe that none of the craft be suffered to convert the means of refreshment into intemperance or excess. For the installing marshal, you will return the junior warden to his seat and present the treasurer-elect for installation. For the installing marshal, you will invest the treasurer with the insignia of his office, which is the crossed keys. For the treasurer, it is your duty to receive all the monies from the secretary, make due entries thereof, and pay them out by order of the worshipful master and consent of the lodge. I trust your regard for the welfare of this order will prompt you to a faithful discharge of your most important duties. For the installing marshal, you will seat the treasurer in his place and present the secretary-elect for installation. Ladies and gentlemen, as the officers are now being seated, please give them a warm round of applause. Mr. Dalton, it is wonderful to see you back in line again. Please go ahead and get that. I just wanted to say, and for those of you who don't know this, there's no way you would know this. The first time I met Carlton years ago, he was serving as Tyler at Cypress Lodge. He didn't know me from anybody. I didn't know who he was either. And I walked up, do you remember that night?
Yes, sir.
He has never disappointed me. He didn't really know what he was supposed to do. He had an idea, but he wasn't sure because he was just learning, right? And that same excitement and exuberance that I witnessed that night is what I still see today. It's incredible. I love seeing it. Thank you so much for being who you are.
Grow up.
Do what?
Grow up, Carlton.
Never. I'm 6'4", how about you?
You're a goofball, Dad.
Brother Starring Marshal, you will will invest the secretary with the insignia of his office, which is the crossed quills. Of the secretary. It is your duty to carefully observe all the proceedings of the lodge, make a correct record of all things proper to be written, receive all monies due to lodge and pay them over to the treasurer, taking his receipt for the same. I trust your good wishes for the welfare of this lodge will prompt you to discharge the duties of your office with fidelity. And by doing so, you will merit the esteem and applause of your brethren. We already have. From the stalling marshal, you will seat the secretary in his place and present the chaplain for installation. For the stalling marshal, you will invest the chaplain with the insignia of his office, which is the open Holy Bible. Brother Austin, are you a certified minister? Are you a licensed minister, or you just holding the office?
I'm just holding the office.
Okay. That's the difference with how I
Gotcha.
greet you. Brother Austin, it is your duty to perform those solemn services which we should constantly render to our Creator, and which, when offered by one whose example is to point to heaven and lead the way, may, by refining our souls, strengthening our virtues, purifying our minds, prepare us for admission into the society of those above, where happiness will be as endless as it is perfect. For the stalling marshal, you will seat the chaplain in his place and present the senior and junior deacons for installation. Is it? Oh, we did
Oh,
sit up here?
I'm sorry. I got it. My fault. Hi. Yeah, you were. You threw me off. I'm so sorry. I forgot I already gave a shoe.
Can I stand up?
So Keith wants his own escort. You won't just come up with you.
I'm sure you earned it. I'm sure you did.
For the stalling marshal, you will invest the deacons with the badges of their offices, which are the square compasses. They're on there.
Full moon is senior.
Yeah.
New moon is junior.
You're the senior.
All grown up. Right what?
Don't let it fool you.
Brothers, senior and junior deacons. It is your province to attend on the master and wardens, and to act as their proxies in the active duties of the lodge, such as the reception of candidates and to the different degrees of masonry, the introduction and accommodation of visitors, and the immediate practice of our rites. The square compasses, as badges of your office, I entrust to your care, not doubting your attention and vigilance. For the stalling marshal, you will seat the deacons in their respective places and present the master of ceremonies for installation. When installing Marshal, you will invest the Master of Ceremonies with the insignia of his office, which is the crossed swords. Brother Master of Ceremonies, it is your duty to assist the senior deacon in preparing candidates for initiation and to see that the needs of the candidate are provided, such as ritualistic instruction, the candidate information booklet system, Masonic education, and information concerning the customs and usages of Masonry. When installing Marshal, you will seat the Master of Ceremonies in his place and present the Tyler, is he elected?
Mm-mm.
And present the Tyler elect for installation. I didn't know if it was elected or appointed.
Different lodges there.
I was scared.
Scared is not a word that comes to my mind when I think of God. Scary is the word.
He's got my back.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But installing Marshal, you will invest the Tyler with the insignia of his office, which is the sword. Brother Tyler, I now present to you the implement of your office. As the sword is placed in the hands of the Tyler, to enable him to guard against the approach of cowens and eavesdroppers, and permit none to pass except those who do qualify, so should it admonish us to set a guard over our thoughts, a watch at our lips, post a sentinel over our actions, thereby preventing the approach of every unworthy thought and deed, thus preserving consciences void of offense toward God and man. When installing Marshal, you will seat the Tyler in his place and present the worshipful master for the charge.
It's gotta be getting thirsty.
A little bit. Worshipful sir and brother, to you is committed the charter of this lodge, the government of brethren who compose the same, and are within the jurisdiction of said lodge. You cannot be insensible of the obligations which devolve on you as their head, nor your responsibility for the faithful discharge of the duties annexed to said station. The honor, reputation, and usefulness of your lodge will materially depend upon the skill with which you manage its concerns, while the happiness of its members will be generally promoted in proportion to the zeal and ability with which you propagate the genuine principles of our institution. For a pattern of imitation, consider the great luminary of nature, the sun, which rising in the east regularly diffuses light and luster to all within its circle. In like manner, it is your province to spread and communicate light and instruction to the brethren of your lives, forcibly impress upon them the dignity and high importance of Masonry, and seriously admonish them never to disgrace it. Charge them to practice out of the lodge those duties which they have been taught in it, and by amiable, discreet, and virtuous conduct to convince mankind of the goodness of the institution. So when a person is said to be a member of it, the the world may know that he is one to whom the burdened heart may pour out its sorrows, to whom distress may prefer its suit, whose hand is guided by justice, and whose heart is expanded by benevolence. In short, by a diligent observance of the bylaws of this lodge, the constitutions of masonry, and above all, the Holy Scriptures, which are given as a rule and guide to your faith, you will be enabled to acquit yourself with honor and reputation, and lay upon a crown of rejoicing, which shall continue when time shall be no more. Brother Stalling Marshal, you will seat the worshipful master in the east and present the wardens for the charge. Slide over, Susan. There you go. You have to get closer to Carlton. My brethren, you are too well acquainted with the principles of masonry to warrant any distrust that you will be found wanting in the discharge of your respective duties. Suffice it to say that what you have seen praiseworthy in others, you should carefully imitate. And what in them may have appeared defective, you should in yourselves amend. You are to be examples of good order and regularity. For it is only by due regard to the laws in your own conduct that you can expect obedience to them from others. You are to assist the worshipful master in the discharge of his trust, diffusing light and imparting knowledge to all whom he shall place under your care. In the absence of the master, you will succeed to higher duties. Your requirements must therefore be such as that the craft may never suffer for the want of proper instruction. From the spirit which you have hitherto evinced, I entertain no doubt that your future conduct will be such as to merit the applause of your brethren and the testimony of a good conscience. Brother Stalling Marshal, you will seat the wardens in their respective stations. Will the members of San Felipe Lodge please rise? Brethren, such is the nature of our Constitution that some must of necessity rule and teach, while others, of course, must learn to submit and obey. Humility in both is an essential duty. The officers elected and appointed to govern your lodge are sufficiently conversant with the rules of propriety and the laws of Masonic order to avoid exceeding the powers with which they are entrusted. And you are of too generous dispositions to envy their preferment. I therefore ask that you will have but one aim, and that will be to try to please each other and unite in the grand design of being happy and communicating happiness. Finally, my brethren, as the business of this lodge has been conducted in peace and harmony, so may it long continue. May you and your associates long enjoy every satisfaction and delight which this interested friendship can afford. and kindness, brotherly affection distinguish your conduct as men and as Masons. Within your peaceful walls, may your children's children celebrate with joy and gratitude the annual recurrence of this auspicious solemnity. And may the principal tenets of our profession, namely brotherly love, relief, and truth, be transmitted through your lives, pure and unimpaired from generation to generation. Brother Stalling Marshal, you will proclaim the installation. The audience will please rise.
In the name and by the authority of the most worshipful Grand Lodge of Texas, I proclaim the officers of St. Felipe Lodge number 239, ancient, free, and accepted Masons, duly and constitutionally installed.
Please be seated. Very good. That went a lot quicker than I expected. That's pretty good. Thank you, Carlton. Blake, I didn't look at the program close enough. Please forgive me. I don't know if you have a list of presentations. Okay. At this time, I would like to have the presentation of the hat. Ms. Merrow, are you ready to do that? Please come forward. Very good. At this time, I want to switch places with you, Blake. Yes, sir. Worshipful sir. Let you take the east, because I would like to present to you your gavel. You just can't wait, right? You just can't wait. The symbol of authority. We see it in our courthouses. We see it in a variety of organizations, our legislators. We see it everywhere. It's one of the oldest signs or symbols of authority in the world. Whether it's struck in this manner or struck in that manner, it's still the same. As many of us have heard over the many centuries, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that way. As many of us have heard over many installations, no other organization in the world gives to its presiding officer the most absolute power that is given the master of a Masonic Lodge. He is the master. I entertain no doubt that you will use this gavel with a wonderful heart, a complete understanding of Masonry, the laws therein, and what it means to be a Mason and making Masons. And along with your installing Marshal, Brother Borst and I, we congratulate you on serving as master for the ensuing Masonic year. We wish you well and congratulations.
So they don't call it a hot seat for nothing. It is a hot seat for sure. I'm very honored. Thank you very much.
You need to speak up.
Very honored. Thank you very much for all that you do. I have a long road ahead of me. I'm still learning, always learning. It's never, I know everything. But with brothers like you and examples that I've had to learn from, it's very impressive, and I'm very honored to be in your company. So I hope that I continue on and serving and making you guys proud. Want to thank my wife. glad that she got to be here today to hear all of the symbolism and everything. Sometimes I don't always give the right answer, and I do know the majority of it, but he put it in so much better terms. I'm very excited and honored to have you brothers in my company. I'm so happy to have the officer corps that we have. I think we're going to have a fantastic year, great year ahead of us, and I want to continue to serve and bring our lodge on further, and just make it a better place as much as possible. With that, I say thank you.
Marshal Master, if I may, I'd like to share a little Masonic story, since there's a lot of people in here that are not Masons. You all know that the Tyler stays outside the door of the lodge, right? Because he makes sure nobody comes in that's not supposed to be in. And the way they communicate with him to let him know what's going on is through a series of knocks. The junior deacon will knock on this side. The Tyler returns knock, opens the door, to communicate what's going on. So several years ago in East Texas, there was a small lodge, even smaller than this, that burned down. And so for several years, while they were trying to gather enough money to build another lodge, they met at the local Holiday Inn. Well, there was a salesman traveling through one night, it happened to be on lodge night, and he was checking in, and he looked over there, and he saw the Tyler, and he asked the desk clerk, he said, "What's with that old boy and that sword over there?" And the desk clerk said, "Oh, that's the Masons." He said, "They meet here once a month till they make enough money to rebuild their lodge and burn down." And the salesman said, "Well, yeah, I've heard of that group." He said, "Is it really that hard to get into?" Desk clerk looked at him and said, "It must be, because that old boy been knocking on that door for 6 years and they haven't let him in yet."
Brother is ready to introduce your families. Yes. Cecil.
My wife made a few notes here for me. I do have my beautiful wife with me, Stephanie, my daughter, Shelby, my youngest, Dylan, and of course, for the ones in the lodge, my brother and my middle child, Austin, who's now in the chaplain. And I would just like to say, Brother Lando, phenomenal job as always, and I appreciate your dedication. And through the years, I've been honored to set through quite a few of these with you, and I look forward to many more. And congratulations, Worshipful Master.
Thank you.
Worshipful Master, wardens and brethren, right worshipful sir, and honored guests. Today I have with me the past worthy matron of Cypress chapter number 1102, the lovely Miss Lisa Newberry. And my daughter, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. Yes,
Grace.
No, Grace, who actually just finished her term as for the advisor of Westside Assembly number 233, International Order of the Rainbow for Girls. It's very nice to have them here. It's an honor to serve during your year, Worshipful Master. Thank you for having me. Brother Cecil was among a few of the brothers who were able to make it out the other night to a very special initiation at Cypress Lodge. So now I know what it's like to call your son a brother. And I don't have to be as envious of him anymore as I was, since I get to enjoy that now. But thank you to the brothers who made it out the other night, and to Brother Olson especially for taking part in the degree. It was fantastic. I hope that we get to enjoy many more degrees here in the coming year, where we can take part and my son can visit. Thank you so much.
Worshipful Master, it was a great ceremony, Brother Rolando. Keith, thank you for stepping in and doing so well. That was a great ceremony. I always enjoy watching it. I'm here with y'all celebrating this time, but thank y'all for everything, and y'all did a great job.
Is your daughter okay?
So they were in an accident. So they're out there they're getting a car right now, so that's what they're doing, shopping for cars.
She's okay.
She's okay. She wasn't in the car.
Nice boys, brother. Probably my beautiful wife, Jennifer. That's it. but Steve Orlando is also right now the worshipful master and Waller, and I can imagine that they're just doing great over there. Now it's always a pleasure to watch you. Always a pleasure to watch you just roll off your tongue and just. I was honored to have you install me, and I know glad. Yes. Thank you, Joe.
Worshipful Master, Warden's brother, and right worshipful sir, just want to thank you again for putting your faith in me to continue in this position there. I'd like to introduce my wonderful and very patient, sometimes forgiving wife, Jan, over here for coming again this year. Brother Steve and Keith, thank you very much for taking part in this last moment. Whenever I was DGM several years ago, I attempted to try to memorize the installation ceremony, and I never quite got it. It's always just so impressive and heartwarming to see how much care you put in this. So we're all very blessed to have such an outstanding individual such as you that we're able to call friends and see how much you care about this community. Thank you.
Worshipful Master, Warden's brother, right worshipful sir, I've already had my say, but I do want to say that I have a goal this year for St. Philip Lodge. We're going to get the speaker system working because none of y'all talk up. All I hear is, I don't know if that's because of old ears or y'all just, you need to speak up, but we're going to get that sound system going again.
You hear that, honey? I need to be louder.
I didn't say you. I didn't say you, brother. You or me. I think we're good. But, Brother Orlando, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to work with you.
Thanks. And I just wanted to say something. I'm going to talk loud because I can't be corrected right now. But let us understand why we talk soft. If he can't hear us, he can't correct us. Steve, for this is great, and for Keith, and for Katie, we're seeing them more. Our neighbor lodge come over here to fill in some of our empty chairs when we're short on folks. So appreciate y'all coming. Look, I'm going to be looking forward. So anyway, it's on your page.
Once again,
Worshipful Master, you
Brother
forgot one, didn't you?
No, I didn't forget you.
Sean Wilk Tyler that brought my grandson,
Awesome.
5-year-old, and Michael. Steve, thanks again. Has been a friend for 30 years. And first man to teach me my EA work in 1991 was Steve Orlando inside the Harris County Jail. We were not in.
Oh, that was about
We had badges on. Still do. Anyway, thank you, brother.
You beat me to it, Brother Sean.
Worshipful Master, boys and brothers, I neglected earlier to make one other introduction. I'd like to do so now before you close it. As I mentioned before, the Grand Master has a service team in each district, which is headed up by a district deputy Grand Master. He also has 2 other officers that serve with him currently. Sometimes there's 3. This year there's 2, which is a district education officer and a district communications officer. For District 108, that man's name is Carter Scarborough. And you see it over here behind the camera. Please give a warm welcome to your DCO of 108. And in District 44, they're blessed to have the honorable and hard-working ethic of Brother
Mumford Al Jerome. Yeah.
Grayson's dad. That's it.
You got your
District 44.
district service
DCO,
team
right?
here.
Yes, sir.
Please give a warm welcome. A warm thank you.
off the year and I said, I'm just a glorified secretary, but then I remembered what all the secretary does. And I said, I'm a glorified receptionist.
There you go.
It's very different.
Very
But our
different.
District 44 education officer is Brother Juan Mendoza.
I did not know
Son,
that.
I'm
We
moving.
haven't done the
I gotta go.
Christmas workshop yet, so he hasn't got to make his big debut.
Yeah.
He's not wearing his badge. He needs to wear a badge on there.
And then we have our DGGM, Tom, John Well. Brother Carlson, thank you so much for being here today.
Carter.
Yeah,
Carter,
we-
sorry, Carter. I'm getting your head.
We got the district team here.
And,
The whole team.
Bud's,
Yep,
DI
Bud.
had 44.
Former DGGM.
Oh,
Actually, I'm your district instructor.
He's our district instructor.
I want to just make note that all 4 members of the service team for this district are members of this lodge, and we're here today. That says a lot for St. Louis.
And that is why the pressure is on.
No worries.
No, thank you all. Thank you so much for coming out today. It means a lot to all of us, and I'm truly honored. Truly honored. I really am. And with that being said, I know everybody's hungry and they're ready to go. Get this bad boy down.
Excuse the non-Masons and we'll.
So we'll excuse non-Masons.